Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel Strike Zone Reports. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we're discussing the recent developments around Crimea and how the collapse of its land bridge to Moscow has led to a major breakdown in supply and logistics. Starting with the exterior of the situation, we're looking at the route that once connected Russia to the peninsula of Crimea, a critical land bridge that allowed for movement of goods, fuel, and military logistics. The collapse or disruption of this link has meant that traditional surface transport that depended on this route is no longer reliable. Roads and railways that once functioned smoothly are now under strain. The terrain now sees bottlenecks, detours, and increased cost and delay of movement. The external environment has shifted from relative stability to a condition where officials and logistics planners must rely on less efficient alternatives. Ferries, sea transport, smaller connector routes, all of which increase vulnerability. Turning to the interior, that is the inside view of how this impacts Crimea itself. Deep inside the peninsula, the breakdown resonates through factories, fuel depots, stores, and everyday supply chains. Local residents have noticed fuel stations running dry, trucks backing up, and deliveries arriving much later than expected. The infrastructure inside Crimea is experiencing strain. Shortages of key supplies, increased prices, longer wait times for fuel or basic goods. Logistics hubs inside the territory are under pressure because inventory, which used to arrive by the land route, must now find alternative transport. That means inside distribution networks are reorganizing. Warehouses that stored supplies formerly arriving via the bridge now face stockouts, or must roll out contingency stock that is more expensive to maintain. Supply chains that once operated on a rhythm are now disrupted. Procurement cycles triggered by reliable land supply must now factor in unpredictability, higher cost, and higher risk of failure. This internal stress means that the local economy is also affected. Businesses dependent on regular deliveries are seeing delays or rationing. Households may face shortages of everyday items, and the risk of black market or informal alternatives can increase. The interior shift is not just logistical but social. Public anxiety may rise when goods become scarce or expensive, and the internal mechanism of supply is being stressed in multiple sectors like fuel, food, industrial inputs. So, inside Crimea, the breakdown of the land bridge has profound ripple effects. Not just the visible exterior road-rail collapse, but the inner workings of how people live, businesses operate, and how supply is maintained. On performance, the performance of the logistics system is clearly down. The speed, reliability, and volume of transport into the peninsula have decreased. Where once large freight trains or convoys could pass relatively swiftly, now transit is slower, capacity lower, and risk of interruption higher. The entire system's throughput is diminished. This means the performance metric of supply chains, timeliness, quantity, cost, has degraded. Morning to evening checkpoints, customs, inspections, or delays caused by damage or alternate routing all reduce performance. Logistics planners may now have to factor in redundancies, extra buffer stock, slower delivery times, and higher shipment costs. The performance of movement of essential goods, fuel, food, industrial materials is now eroded. That translates into higher cost for end users, more frequent shortages, and possibly rationing or triage of priority goods, which further reduces the effective performance of the supply network. Regarding safety features in this context, safety refers both to securing transport routes and ensuring supply resilience. Because the land bridge was vulnerable to damage or attack, the breakdown highlights the need for alternate routes, redundant supply chains, safety of infrastructure against sabotage or natural disruption, and contingency planning. Safety features such as alternate maritime supply, secure warehousing, emergency fuel reserves, diversified entry points into the territory become more vital. Also, the safety of civilians is at stake. If transportation routes are cut or difficult, then emergency services, medical supplies, fuel for hospitals might become compromised. So, one safety feature lesson is that dependency on a single major supply corridor is a risk. Diversifying supply paths, Maintaining backup stocks inside the territory, and ensuring that critical supplies have protective layers, for example, elevated storage, alternate transport, emergency mode, are all key. In this breakdown scenario, the lack of sufficient backup or redundancy is a safety gap, and planners will need to build these features to minimize future disruption.